Good afternoon. My name is Piotr Bobula. I'm representing here IAG GBS, so International Airlines Group, Global Business Solutions. We are quite new to the market. It's been 2 years now, around 2 years since we started. My presentation will focus on a very, very high level on the airline industry. So if there are any questions, please feel free to ask them during the Q&A session. But I think I've got an impression that I need to ask one question first. How many people in the room know actually the name of IAG and relate that to airlines? If you can just raise your hands up. All right, Marcio, I know you know. Right. That's what I thought. There will be 2 questions. This is not the first, not first of them. I think that this is really expressing, this is showing actually how our brand IAG has been built. We have some strong brands which you will see in a moment on the screen. But basically, it is showing also a major thing which I would like to focus on, is that really we shouldn't care as passengers, as people who travel around the world, what's the brand. We should be focusing rather on safety and quality, getting from one point to another in one piece with our luggage, good quality of service inside. So really, this is about taking care of passengers or cargo and about carrying them from one point to another, full stop. And that's the business where we work. And it's pretty dynamic. Let me just quickly elaborate a little bit on this as well. Just a few words, just a random fact book about airlines. Airline industry works actually 83% of the market works under IATA, so the International Air Transport Association regulations and solutions. There are also some regional agreements which to some extent are similar to IATA. And the good thing about this is that there are already some solutions for paperless exchange of invoicing. There is a simplified invoicing systems, and there is a clearinghouse. There are specific solutions for disputes. So there is an opportunity to reject an invoice. There is an opportunity to raise a formal dispute. That flow is really helping. But first of all, you need to make sure that you will be using that, because it is a great opportunity as long as you use it. IATA also assures some initial credit vetting for full members. It is really helping in our credit management. Again, I will just refer to yesterday's masterclass. I think you will not use it properly without proper policy in place. So there are opportunities and risks. There are opportunities and some things to do within the company, within the group, to make sure that the credit and collections will work properly. There is one word, some abbreviation called ASK, so that's available seats kilometers. That's how airlines measure their capacity. So that's actually referring to one seat and its journey. Yeah? So it's a number of seats available multiplied by the kilometers. And that's how actually we are trying to benchmark ourselves. And obviously, there is a discussion regarding the revenue per unit. So there is an ASK, which is referring exactly to the revenue. And that's what we fight for, especially that. And I will be referring to two terms here. There is a new generation coming in. So the legacy airlines, as we tend to call them, are facing strong competition from low-cost carriers or how we tend to call them, new generation carriers. Different business model, different types of sales, different methods of settlement, apart from IATA, obviously. Different view of the business, for sure. Airlines do create alliances and groups. Our group is one of the examples. In terms of alliances, one word, this is our alliance, Star Alliance. Those are competitors. We have some representatives over there. Last but not least, International Airlines Group. This is not everything in our name. International Consolidated Airlines Group. This is our registered name. And IAG as a group was created in 2010. Actually, then there was a long journey in terms of consolidating, understanding each other, and we reached the state of creating GBS at the end of 2014. Now, let me ask you a question. So if you can just prepare the application. What airlines are part of IAG? If IAG is not well recognized as a name, what brands we do actually have? Can you just try to figure out what they can be? Only one answer is correct, obviously. British Airways, Iberia, Aer Lingus, Iberia Express, Vueling, and IAG Cargo. That's first. BOAG, Iberia, Iberia Express, Vueling, Level, Aer Lingus, and or Alitalia. British Airways, Iberia, Aer Lingus, Iberia Express, Vueling, and Level. British Airways, Iberia, Aer Lingus, Qatar, Iberia Express, Vueling, and Level. So please take your time, I guess 20 seconds. All right, let me see. All right, so the winner, according to the vote, is British Airways, Iberia, Aer Lingus, Iberia Express, Vueling, and IAG Cargo. What was out? The rest are more or less similar in the score. Well, actually, what airlines are part of IAG? IAG Cargo is not an airline. I will elaborate a little bit on it. But the rest is more or less true. Yeah. So the true answer really is British Airways, Iberia, Aer Lingus, and then Iberia Express, Vueling, and Level, which actually has a division, an important division in the middle. Difference between first three and others is that first three are more or less legacy airlines, so the full service carriers, where we are used to have full service for free, usually. Now it's changing a little bit. Versus Iberia Express, Vueling, and Level, which are new generation carriers. We have all of them. And as you can see, we've got British, Spanish, and Irish companies inside the group. What an opportunity, what a challenge. On a cultural level, on the business model level, that's our reality. Apart from that, the airline industry is obviously pretty dynamic itself. Yes, exactly. Apart from IAG Cargo, which I mentioned that is part of our group, is one of our operating companies, we've got also Avios. That's, let's say, the loyalty program or bank of points, actually, which works within the group, between our members, and it's made available to the passengers. IAG GBS, as we tend to call ourselves, Center of Excellence, not shared service. this is one of the operating companies as well. So we are there since actually Christmas Eve 2014 to bring excellence, bring standardization into the group. And there are also subsidiaries, more local ones like Air Nostrum in Spain, for instance. Basically, we can say that we work as a whole in hubs. So we have hubs where we have majority of slots. We basically keep our aircraft. It is changing a little bit with the new generation carrier, but so far it is more or less true. In terms of numbers, the group has actually over 500 aircraft. We travel to 279 destinations, and there were over 100 million passengers flown last year. And the best news I've heard of is actually creation of a new trend and a new airline, which is both new generation carrier. You can call it low cost, but you can see the standard, which is traveling overseas. And it's now being actually followed by competitors. It is called Level. It started from 3 routes, 2 of them to Argentina, one of my preferred countries. And it's looking really great because we are a trendsetter in this area. Well, our ASK for last year, it was 7.56. We are slightly below our competitors from Lufthansa, but we are growing and we are expanding not only capacity, but really we are looking into what's the revenue per unit. A set of numbers which I believe will be presented later on. We will have a discussion on them. This is comparison between different industries. I would like to say 2 things. Behind the numbers, where we can see that we are pretty okay, I would say. We are not going to extremes. There is some factor which may change this picture in terms for the airline industry in a moment. On the journey, when the passenger or cargo is being transferred around the world, there are so many factors, there are so many risks that can impact the actual result, that can increase the cost of services we are giving, that this number cannot be just treated as static. We need to be very proactive, we need to be very dynamic in terms of identification of risks, and obviously we need to be ready to react when necessary. Because, as I said, the most important thing is to make the passenger travel as desired. Nothing else really matters. Now, employees, new generation carriers, they are changing the picture because they are really focused on the business, not on the maybe service we were used to, but they are definitely focused on the business versus the back office roles. So everybody from the crew, even finance teams from new generation carriers need to be ready, need to be committed to deliver to the business for the sake of the business. And really, again, the business goes first, and it is changing the picture of the standard full service carriers. Major challenges in terms of risks. You may argue with this list. I think that there will be a chance during the discussion, but for sure the dynamic political situation, it's been shown as one of the well-recognized risks worldwide anyway. One thing to mention, we work with governments, because first of all, in order to fly over a country, we need to negotiate with the government, with Russia or China, and some other countries, or Iran recently, as the examples when you need to really make sure that you know the other party, that you have negotiation skills in order to secure your business and secure the travel. And then terrorism, in terms of securing basically the travel, safety of the passengers or cargo. And this needs to be always taken into consideration, and obviously that's one of the risks that has been identified also in other industries, but in airlines it's actually critical. Fuel pricing. This is rather obvious, but this is actually one of the major risks in terms of running the business, because we highly depend on fuel. So on one hand, obviously, we need to be cost effective in terms of usage. We need to optimize our network, our slots, but also we need to make sure that we will be developing our fleet to use fuel more efficiently. And this can change in a moment. When you look now at Venezuela, for instance, there are a combination of political situation and fuel pricing, a killing mixture actually. Law changes, for instance, European Union directives on passenger compensation. In a moment, actually, and also in the light of the same principle, making sure that the passenger will not be impacted by something that may happen, by the flight that is delayed, is not taking place, and so on. There are regulations which are making airlines pay exact amounts or assure compensation in a different form for such events. Also very risky situation for a business. High competition and push for cost reduction driven by new generation carriers, that's what we mentioned already. And obviously exchange rates. And the second part, fraud attempts. Fraud, especially for credit cards, and also because of the new generation carriers, new ways of payment. The more purchases are happening directly, the more opportunity for a fraud in credit cards area. That's what we are facing actually, and every company is really worried about that risk. And into that picture we come. Here in Krakow, actually, and we have our colleagues working in other centers as well, but we are here actually as a core of GBS. And by two facts of being set up and being set up actually in Krakow, we are bringing an immediate value to the group which we can build on. First of all, we have talents from a developed corporate labor market. This is what Andrew Halm mentioned yesterday. This is really true because we are bringing talents to our company. Cost savings by consolidation and efficiencies, that's our process excellence role. Change of thinking, really focused on the business rather than on developing back office. So first principle, we don't really want transactions. We really want to focus on high level value activities. And then we are focused on assuring seamless process from ticket booking until the flight is actually flown or a compensation is given. That's why we are bringing all the processes together. That's why we are consolidating processes and eliminate any gaps, also in order to be able to react when needed. Quick reaction on ad hoc challenges. There will be just two scenarios we went through during this year. And last but not least, we are actually proving by having high-level procurement activities, very well-developed financial planning and analytics, and also finance as a whole in a traditional split between P2P, O2C or C2C, and R2R. We are really proving that we are able to bring high-value activities into this particular labor market. Airline industry AR structure. This is really important, and this is actually what I would like to close this presentation with. We've got actually what we have is credit to cash. We have separate solutions for billing, apart from the IATA-driven solutions. In airline industry, there is a sales or revenue accounting process, which is really separate. It uses different principles than cash and collection team itself. But it's really fitting into our processes by the moment when the revenue is recognized. The revenue can be recognized only when the passenger has really flown, but there are segments of flights where we need to account for properly to get to the end result. There are also many charges that that follow the passenger in the airports, lounges, excess luggage, and so on. This needs to be properly recognized, calculated, and then what comes in? We've got IATA solutions. The interline solution is, I think, the most important one because it's paperless exchange of invoices of those charges between airlines worldwide, where the end result can be either acceptance, which is a default option, let's say, or a rejection, which is a kind of dispute within industry. And that's critical part. That's really critical part. It is accompanied obviously by some specific solutions for passenger revenue or for cargo revenue. And I think what we can say after 2 years of using those, the most important thing in that area is that those tools will work as long as you will know how to use them. So you need to keep improving your processes. You need to keep controlling your processes in order to use those tools effectively. Because if they go out of sync, you are in trouble. And we need to act proactively to be able to react when needed. Just one recent example of that. Very good mobilization of our teams when second largest German airline filed for bankruptcy. That's obviously Air Berlin, not Lufthansa. That's the case where actually everybody got immediately engaged. There was one single call on a bank holiday in Poland where Spanish people were also having bank holiday from a senior manager saying something's wrong is happening to Air Berlin. Everybody got mobilized. We sent an early warning message to all the operating companies. We mobilized also the teams who are responsible for revenue recognition for them to check whether we built Air Berlin everything we wanted to. This is still ongoing. We have still time, but not exceeding 28th of September to claim what we want them to pay. Then they will be just simply protected by the wall of law, right? So this is how we work. This is how we operate. That was another example, but I've exceeded too much some of the points. So I think that it will be available in the presentation later on. One last question, right? After the presentation, if I may ask you, what will be actually on your mind during your next travel? I know that the presentation could have been better, 15 minutes just, but anyway, thank you very much, Mark, for the invitation. But what will be your thought? What will be your point of focus when you will be traveling next? Will that be tight conditions in managing airline business? Or maybe just your travel schedule and planned holidays? Maybe how GBS can add value to businesses in airlines? Or the difference between low cost and the full service carriers. Please take your time, 20 or 30 seconds, and I'm curious to see the result. That's great. Thank you very much, because you've just assured me that our mission is the correct one. Thank you very much.